So security is relevant for everyone these days. Sadly, we have wars in European countries these days where cyber attacks and security is an aspect of that thing. Also, given COVID and stuff like that, where everybody's working from home, it's all a disparate system these days. So security is a prime topic on every C-level's executive's agenda these days. It's the same for SAP, it's the same for ERP systems in general. In the old days, let's say, they used to have a sort of approach where they call it the walled garden approach, where they try to build a huge wall around your SAP or your ERP system and try to keep the bad guys out, build the wall strong, build the wall high, and just keep them coming over the wall, effectively. That sadly doesn't apply anymore these days. The guys know how to scale the walls, they know how to build tunnels around the walls or underneath the walls. In a fancy term, they call that assume breach, where they say, okay, they're going to get in one way or the other, so you need to be prepared for that. And the thing that you need to focus on more than in the old days is detection and responding. Knowing when they come in and knowing when they breached your wall and then messing around with your ERP system and making sure that you know what to do when that happens.
You have to distinguish between internal and external threats. External threats are facilitated by certain vulnerabilities like Log4j or the recent ICM issues, combined with social engineering. So what is important is to patch systems regularly to avoid those issues, and also to have regular user training. But besides external threats, you also have internal threats that shouldn't be overlooked. Sometimes users are negligent, so they forget to lock their PC, or they lose a device, or they even send information via mail to the wrong recipient. So that is a way how you can lose data, and yeah, you have to be conscious about that. Users have to be conscious about that. So it's important to have user training and segregation of duties, that even if there is a person with malicious intent, that there are still other people around that can spot it and block it.
There's two aspects on coping and detecting and responding, so to speak. Nonetheless, you still need that wall. If you just tear down the wall around your castle and you just let everybody in, yeah, you can detect all you want or you can respond all you want. You're not going to be able to ingest all that, all the bad things that are coming in, so to speak. One thing that you need to do as well is, besides reactively detecting and responding, you also need to still do proactive things. Making sure things are patched. People may know about the Log4j vulnerability. It's one of the last ones, but there's a lot of predecessors before it. So patching, making sure that all the holes are plugged in your cheese, so to speak, is still a very important thing to do. There's also other things that you can do proactively, so to speak. Many of you may know these days that you don't just log in with a username and password anymore, but that you need to take out your cell phone or type in a code somewhere. That's called multi-factor authentication, a very well-known principle. That's also something very proactively that you can do.
The reactive part means that through audit logs, through monitoring, you get an idea of what is happening in your environment. And typically when a breach happens, it takes many days before it gets noticed. And that's why it's important to know what has happened. And luckily there are tools available that can help you. For example, we see that usually integration is done with a central SIEM tool, which gathers information and provides a holistic overview of your landscape. Examples of such a tool are SAP Enterprise Threat Detection or Microsoft Sentinel.
Well, if I would make a suggestion, we all know there's a war on talent these days, specifically in security. So what I would suggest is seek help. You have all kinds of specialists Kronos with Flexo and Arxis being one of them. But seeking help and getting your bearings, so to speak, in the first sense is I think the first step that you need to do. And once you know where you are, that you know how high your wall is, how thick your wall is, and how well you can detect and respond to security threats, then you can take an action plan. And that's where Flexo and Arxis can help you very well.